Here we are on a Friday.
It is a Friday. Happy Friday to you. It's December 18th, the year 2020. Welcome aboard. This is Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 435. It only took me like
you had to work hard on that, man.
I was
looking at your eyes going, oh.
I know. If you ever watch like the spelling bees on ESPN when they like ask the person to spell like this, a word with like 19,000 letters, I'm like, can you please use it in a sentence? And then you see their brains working really hard and like steam coming out. That's what it took for me to remember that this is, in fact, podcast 435. We appreciate you tuning in today.
Yeah, we do. And we do have a podcast counter, but with all the moves and everything, we're still...
Yeah, we've moved a lot. Robbie Krausen, don't take it personally. It's here. We have it. Well, it's not here. We have it. I think it's in my garage. We've been moving in and out of cities and offices and moving into the hub, but we've got it. And we got it here. We got it today. We're on Friday. We usually come to you on Mondays and Thursdays, but we always come to you twice a week and have so for the last 4 years. If it's your first time tuning in, we appreciate you. It is a beautiful yet crisp day here in Chattanooga. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast again. And if you haven't gone back, check them out. We have obviously 434 other episodes for you to go through. Mike does an outstanding job of outlining those with bullet points. You can pick and choose the ones that might be pertinent to what you're wanting to learn more about, or you can just start back at the beginning and then probably question why these guys are still doing it 435 episodes again. But we're still around. We are all about consistency. We talk about all things swim, bike, run, occasionally nutrition, race recaps, race previews, occasionally have on a guest. But for the most part, Mike and I, as both coaches and athletes, just sit back, relax, have a nice, open, honest discussion about what's going on with us personally, either as with our athletes as coaches or ourselves and what we're trying to accomplish still in the sport of triathlon. Sometimes we'll hop into our Facebook group, which you can search Crushing Iron Group, answer one simple question. We will let you in. A lot of great expertise in there right now. It's a pretty good time to join in. You can hop on in there. We're actually giving away gifts for the last 10 days leading up to Christmas. Today, I believe, is a Garmin watch, which we'll be giving away. Yesterday, we gave away a Garmin Varia. Yeah, the day before was, I don't even remember what we gave away the day before, but it wasn't. Oh, we got a new pair of shoes for, we picked 2 athletes. We're basically trying to find people who, listen, it's been a rough year. There's a lot of people out there who need to pick me up, and you and I, while we've had our difficulties like everyone else this year, we consider ourselves pretty fortunate, to be able to do what we do and having made through it the year and the way we have. So if it's the least we can do to give back and hopefully bring a smile to someone's face. So hop in there and you can be part of that, where you nominate someone, and we'll do some gift giving. And we have some elves from our team that are very eager to be handing those out. But that's what we do. Sit back, open, honest discussion, no sponsors, no ads, which I might talk about here in a minute. But yeah, one agenda, which is to keep you happy and healthy.
Now we're going to talk about sponsors.
I think I'm as stubborn as they get.
Yes, you are.
I'm as stubborn as they get. And we have done this podcast for a long time. And we have prided ourselves in not having sponsorships or ads or commercials, whatever you want to call them, or the like. Recently, the past few weeks, we have been slammed. Even another one today.
They keep coming.
Can we please sponsor? We're in some partnership and
signs.
And you know me, I'm as stubborn as they get. I'm like, yeah, whatever. They could be like, hey, we'll fork over, a couple thousand episode. I'm like, I just don't know. You're on my list, which I'm trying to let go of. Okay, I've been told I need to let go of my list and been stubborn. But I would prefer to keep it that way. But I'd be interested. If you're in our closed group and Facebook, let us know what you think. It's something that we do pride ourselves on. It's actually something a lot of athletes say they love about our podcast, that we don't have those, and people generally fast forward through them anyway, which. Obviously, if these sponsors have listened to our podcast, they would think we're not the greatest one to have, because people fast forward through the first 15 minutes of our podcast anyway, so they're not going to hear the ads unless we bring them up at the beginning or at the end. But we've had questions and emails consistently here the last few weeks, which I don't really know why. I guess that's more of a sign of how crazy and unpredictable this year has been, that people would actually think we have kind of a semi-platform that would be just for their product.
Non-traditionally move our products?
We're the clearance podcast, is what I feel like we are.
We've got a last-ditch effort.
We've got a lot of product to move in 2020 that we haven't sold. Maybe these guys can do it for us. Let's go clearance, and let's try to get rid of all the bottles of whatever we have that we're trying to sell, active nutrition, fast keto cleanse, and let's see if these guys can move it for us.
Are we going to move those right off the shelf? Why do I have a feeling that there's a big board out there somewhere with 1,000 podcasts on it? Somebody's throwing darts, and somebody hit us twice this week.
And they all looked themselves and thought, what is the Crushing Iron podcast?
Look that up.
I said triathlon related podcast. I didn't say bodybuilding. Okay. Can somebody, Jan, get over here, fix that for us. Let's go head over to Tower 26 podcast instead. But no, we may do it. Who knows? But if you're a longtime listener, especially if you're an OG who's been listening to us for, we started out as a closed Facebook group with 5 people in it, 3 years ago. Now we've got close to 400 or 4,000. Let us know what you think. I don't know. I like staying true to ourselves. And you and I have been having this discussion for the last few weeks, and it's about just doing it, that sometimes the most important decisions you can make are the ones where you say no, right? You say no more often than you say yes. And what's going to make you truly happy in life, and what's going to make you, I guess the question is it worth it? And I think that's the question that we have to ask ourselves a lot in life is it worth it? What's the return going to be? And I think people do that in training, is signing up for these races, is putting in the time to train for racing and Ironman 70.3s or marathons or ultra events. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is the comeback worth it?
I don't know. I mean, I think we like to think of our listeners in our Facebook group as our board of directors. So I guess we're putting it out there, and, the decision will come to us through
3 or 4 opinionated listeners that will tell us what we're supposed to do. Yeah, we're not expecting a huge feedback session on that, but we put it out there. We were going through topics for today. We had about 7 or 8 on top of our whiteboard over here, and you were talking about you feel out of shape.
Yeah, I think I'm throwing that out there just to make people feel better about themselves.
You don't feel out of shape. You're just lying.
No, I do. But I think sometimes it's important to understand. I mean, I do feel out of shape. I don't feel tremendously out of shape, but I feel like, it's sort of like you get that idea sometimes in your head. You're out taking a little jog or something, and you think, wow, about, maybe a year ago or so, I was doing a long run and getting ready to do an Ironman. And then today I was thinking, boy, that seems so far-fetched. There's been a lot of times over the course of this year where I felt out of shape, but I still felt like, maybe I could turn it on. But now it's just sort of and I was telling everybody in the club, which you guys can check out at c26triathlon.com, which I'm working with the club, and we're growing fast, and it's going to be open through the end of the year and maybe a little bit longer, but it'd be a great Christmas present for yourself to get your training plan all locked in for next year, all around your races. But anyway, I was telling people, it's this is the time of year where it's just kind of murky, and you just sort of stay in the game and don't expect anything too huge. And I had to it's funny how easy it is to say that to people, but how difficult it is to accept it for yourself sometimes.
Well, I think a lot of athletes, we always chase it. If you've been in the sport long enough, like you and I have, you always go back to these memorable runs or rides that you did, and you're like, God, I felt so incredible. And then you think about maybe where you are currently, and you're like, God, I'm so far off. And then you think about not necessarily going back to the topic of is it worth it, but do you think about, man, what's it going to take for me to get back there? And I mean, there's a lot of ways you go with that, with the topic in general, but this time of year, what you said about getting back into shape and that you feel out of shape right now, given what this time of year is, I think, supposed to be used for, which is just kind of not letting yourself go, but just being more flexible and and finding things that make you happy and maybe planning for the year in a different way than you have for the past. But right now, I think the biggest thing is not necessarily trying to find your fitness, but to find your best routine and best path forward to finding your fitness. And a lot of people start from the end and work their way back. They think, okay, I want to lose 40 pounds, and I'm going to put a little, note in Training Peaks or whatever platform you use. It's I'm going to lose it by, next year. I'm going to lose 40 pounds in a year. And you think, okay, well, first of all, you can't predict that. You can try. People try really hard to get to their end goal without doing all the small things that you need to do. The micro goals that you need to establish and plan out to be okay, if I really, really want to be successful in 2021, do I need to start with the workouts that I think are going to get my fitness back really quickly? No. What you need to do is start from the basics, which is, what can I do to clear my plate or to clear your head or whatever, clear your heart, whatever it is you need to do to think, all right, if I really want to accomplish my goals of doing, maybe it's finishing your first Ironman. Okay, what is going to be required for me to do that? Okay, I'm going to need to be obviously really in really good shape, swim, bike, and run. Okay, how am I going to do that? How many hours is it going to take? What's it going to take for me to do that? Am I going to have to be consistent? Am I going to have to change up my fueling? Am I going to have to pay attention to this? Do I need to buy anything? Like, what can I set? Do I need to get a training plan or a coach, or need to join a master's program? Like, people like to start at the very end. They sign up for the race, and all they think about is Ironman or 70.3s or marathons, whatever this big event is that you're trying to accomplish this year. And you always start with the big and how can you accomplish that? But what you need to do is think, okay, like diet. It's a great time of year, I think, to focus on like how people try to just reinvent and go like total extreme in terms of their diet. I'm going to eliminate everything, and I'm just going to. That's what's going to work. How about just starting with, okay, I'm not going to have sweets after 8 p.m. Like if you're a sweet guy, that's like a thing. Or like keep it simple. Like, okay, once you're able to create that healthy pattern, if that is a problem for you, then you think, all right, now I'm maybe going to try and cut back instead of eating out 5 times a week. That's what people do. They say, all right, well, I eat out 5 times a week. That's a problem. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to go out to eat for a month. Why not just start with, you know what? Maybe I'll just kind of cut it back to maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And you're already seeing progress by doing that, more than likely, unless you're going to eat like crap at home. But it's all about setting out small, tangible goals that basically clear the way and clear the path for you to be successful, because there are always a lot of things that are in our way, personally, professionally, whatever it is, to be in shape and where we want to be physically, that most of us neglect. And that's why I say, like, trimming the fat from your life or clearing your plate and making sure it's something that you can set yourself up for success in every way imaginable for a great year and a great season by doing all the small things you need to do now, which are, in fact, fairly simple, right? They're usually fairly simple changes to make with your life and in your training or in your relationships or with your job. And it's like, I can make small changes that are going to lead to big results instead of trying to be like, all right, I need to do something big and drastic today to see this drastic change. And then 2 days later, you figure out, you know what, that's right, it's not sustainable. I'm going to start over. Or you crash and burn and you give up.
Yeah. And there's also this thing about, where I'm at is like today I went out for a little run, 3 miles, and my legs felt fine. But it's sort of like, I didn't feel like my breathing and just the flow of everything. It just felt heavy. You know what I mean? Like my legs felt fine, but it's sort of the aerobic side of it wasn't there. But it's so weird because like if you eat kind of clean or, you're a little bit more attentive, I think we have a tendency to eat a little thicker right now, and like the metabolism slows down and you can feel just heavy, even though if you're not like super heavy, but you just feel like it, and that's kind of the feeling you get. And I think that's pretty common right now. And so I just kind of keep an eye on that too, because it's like, we're going to be eating, the next week or so, it's going to be probably
free for all.
It's
going to be a feast, baby.
And, what I'm getting at is like, I kind of joked to say I'm really out of shape, but like, I was on the bike earlier this week and I felt really good on the bike, but I went out running and I just felt heavy. So I think it can get in your head. You know what I mean? Every few days you could be like, man, I feel great. And then all of a sudden you eat bad or a couple of nights in a row and you feel heavy and it's like, man, I'm out of shape. So I'm real hard on myself like that, but I don't really believe it. And I try to always work on my internal confidence, because you can kind of flip that, but it gets hard this time of year, I think. And especially with a lot of stuff we've been going through, I think it's real hard to remember because we don't have that race handy. It's like, we
haven't taken a test in a while.
I know,
and you're like, am I losing? Am I getting dumber? Am I not getting smarter? Or am I losing fitness? I don't even know, because I haven't raced in a year and a half, 3 years.
You can't just say, man, I just did an Ironman 3 months ago.
You're like, wait a minute, I didn't. No, neither did you.
Man, am I really losing it? So yeah,
it's just crazy, I think. And I'm having this discussion. This may be like a much deeper topic, but
let's go deep.
I've been having this discussion with a few athletes this week. And we've covered it before, and it's basically like who you are and who you aren't, and what our just general thoughts can tell us that we are, but we truly kind of know that we aren't this way. Like the 2 specific examples that are 2 different athletes that I work with, and they feel as if they've kind of maybe, and this is like totally paraphrasing and just using my interpretation, obviously it's not quoting, but they've accomplished so much yet feel like they are still holding on to the version of themselves that always saw themselves as a person who didn't accomplish anything. Because we get into this sport and we think, because a lot of people do. You endurance sports in general and triathlon specifically for whatever reasons, and also ultra running, I think people gravitate to that sport as kind of like an opportunity, as like a physical reawakening that will give us the mental and emotional kind of rebirth that we've wanted for years, and prove to ourselves that we are not the person that we've been either programmed to think we are, or we've trained ourselves to believe through experiences and through life or through trauma or through whatever. And then you start by, and you take that mentality and that kind of emotional stranglehold that those thought patterns have on you, and you dive into endurance training, and you use that as kind of like your therapy, in a way. And I think a lot of athletes do that. And then you start to actually accomplish like all these things that you're the person you're trying to distance yourself from or say is a liar. And then you kind of look back and you think, wait a minute. Why am I still arguing with this person that I'm not anymore? And am I really giving the kudos and the congrats and showing the appreciation for this new person that I've become? Because I've been so busy looking in the rearview mirror of this person I'm trying to distance myself from or prove myself to not, that I haven't fully appreciated and loved who I am, which is also super scary for a lot of people because and I think it's actually like it's terrifying to an extent for people who have always considered themselves not an underdog, but like this broken individual that we always suffer with identity crisis, whether it's a good or a bad one. And sometimes when you let that go, even though it's been your identity as a person who can't succeed, I have an issue with that. Like I still have, that, we've had this conversation multiple times. Like I still look back on the person I was before I got sober and what I wasn't able to accomplish. And, I'm a college dropout and I've never been super successful in a lot of things. And that's kind of stuff still creeps into my mind. And then I kind of have to look around and think, all right, well, okay, I've done okay. I've done, probably more than okay. Like I've stayed sober, I've been accomplished a lot of things. But still, like you have those permeating thoughts that are toxic that kind of rob you of the appreciation of being proud of what you accomplished. But I think sometimes we like that. And I'll be honest, sometimes I think I hold on to that chip on my shoulder on purpose, because I'm like, well, if I let go of that chip of people don't believe in you, you've always been a screw up, like your family got disappointed because you're the one that dropped out of college and you're supposed to do this. Now, if you lose that, well, are you almost afraid of what's going to drive you because it's gone? And now you have to be like, wait a minute, I've done a pretty good job. I am successful. Who the hell's going to drive this train? The person that I'm trying to distance myself from, prove that I'm not, because now I have transformed. Now what the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I'll sit back in my chair and I'll slip you the $20 copay and you can go to work.
It's like kind of flying without a net, sort of. It gets to that point, right, where you're feeling good about it and you're not looking down and everything's good, but you just can't look back, you can't not look back, or you can't not look down. And that is difficult. And we actually talk about these kind of things a lot. Maybe not in those terms exactly, but, as we go forward, things are going good. It's so like if you're out there training and things are good and going good and they kind of feel easy, I feel like a lot of us have this tendency to sort of like, oh man, this is I got to make it hard again. Or like, I got to really throw a wrench in my program. And I think a lot of us are built for that, right? It's just sort of like, how can we, it's like mini sabotage or something like that. Or do you use that? When you talk about it that way, do you consciously think you go there when you kind of go back and say, hey, well, I'm going to show these imaginary figures that I really can do it, Yeah, you hear that all the time. Is like, I think David Goggins actually he has that. When you read his book, he talks about, I can't remember if he really has characters or he makes them up sometimes, even like to prove them wrong or kind of use them as fuel. And it's an interesting philosophy. I don't know.
I think triathletes specifically, I think he does. And I don't do that. It's been an interesting transformation for me, especially like in the last six months, like how I've trained, like I've always, and I question this, I think openly in the podcast. It was like, I always thought, that's why I was so excited about going to Texas this year. I was like, I feel like I can finally like bury the hatchet with, am I going to be able to beat the time that bested me for the last 7 years in terms of like, my best 70.3 time was, I think back before I got sober, and I was like, it just eat me alive. And what drove me and the way I approached it this year was a totally different way. It was more based on being happy and being proud of myself. And I think being proud of yourself is actually one of the most underrated and not talked about characteristics that triathletes struggle with in terms of just being proud of themselves. Because I think sometimes we get almost scared and frustrated when and I say we as in, not as in like every triathlete on the planet, but like when we run out of a cause, or we run out of a why, or we run out of people to resent, or we run out of ourselves to resent, and you've accomplished these things and you're like, because I think it's a driving factor within everyone to overcome, to persevere, to be resilient, to show your brother that you're better than this, or show the previous version of yourself that you're this. Because again, I see this with athletes all the time, and I have this conversation almost weekly with a different one that's going through and some kind of identity crisis. And the thing is that they're never really a crisis because it's just more of a positive denial of who you really are now isn't the person when you look yourself in the mirror, you see the person you were 3-4 years ago, and I deal with it.
Depending on the day.
Yeah, depending on the day, right? No, but it's true. It's like people who have lost weight, who've had like a tremendous weight loss journey. They will almost always tell you that, like, when they look in the mirror, they still see a distorted view of themselves because they've looked a previous way before. And with athletes, it can either be an emotional or mental thing. Like, I've never achieved these things. I don't follow through, and now here I am being consistent. And I'm getting promoted in my job. It's had this huge impact on me. Or they see like an athletic identity crisis where they've always pictured themselves as this person who's in a slower pace than what they are now. Let's say they're currently a 8, 9 minute runner, and they get into the sport as a 11, 12 minute runner. They still identify themselves as a person who's, that to them, that's their version of slow. And now that they've kind of like overcome that, they're like, I've always kind of thought I was going to be this way, and now I'm not. And it's uncomfortable. Like, it's almost that success is incredibly uncomfortable if you're not emotionally and mentally prepared for what that's going to be. And I think you see that in all types of professions. Success can wreak havoc for everyone. But I think for triathletes, in terms of being just successful and being more fit and being consistent and doing better than what you ever thought, it's all part of this transformation that you initially signed up for. But I think a lot of us sign up for things with this, like, I'm just going to kind of bury myself on the journey. I don't really expect to ever get there. But if I just kind of keep my head down, maybe I just don't have to deal with it. And then you kind of like wake up one day and you stick your head above ground and you're like, oh shit, I'm there. Right. Now where am I supposed to go? Now what am I supposed to do? I thought this journey was going to be long and impossible. And I was going to be like maybe this never ending journey of effort that you never accomplished it. And then you end up accomplishing it sooner rather than later. Now you're like, well, now I kind of have to readjust, not necessarily your why, but like what internally drives and motivates you to be successful, and where does that actually come from?
And that kind of comes back to the old thing about when you get in, your improvements happen so quickly, and over time, you're seeing all these like, wow, man, I am just changing. I'm changing. And then we talk about once you get to a certain point, then things get harder. It's sort of like that veteran Ironman racer. You've done a lot of them, and I guess in a way I'm there. I mean, I feel like there's room for me to improve, but it seems like it gets harder, definitely. Maybe it's not, but I think that's another part of the mental game is like, how do you convince yourself? It's like, okay, I can leave that person behind and now create a new person, or at least a view of that person. And like I say, it depends on the day for me. A lot of times I can wake up, if I have a great night's sleep, I look in the mirror and be like, man, you're in good shape, dude. Because you feel good. It's like, but if you have a terrible sleep and everything's kind of crusty and you're sort of stumbling around and you're like, oh man, and I'm getting overweight and the whole thing is colliding, it's kind of collapsing on me. But like, it's just so, I don't even know what I'm saying right now, but it's just so weird to kind of like go through these phases. And I think it's what we sign up for sometimes. I mean, triathlon, I think about this all the time when I look at the club athletes, and I go in there every day and I'm like, man, they've got another schedule. They got another week of stuff just hanging out there, and it's like, man, it feels like a never ending train. And that's why I'm so kind of almost over the top on this idea, especially now, of like, when you see something that doesn't agree with you right there and then at that day, come up with your own plan, just do what feels good, because I think what we try to do as coaches is help you feel good, help you find the right groove for yourself, and help you keep it going, whatever that takes, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be, you know, crushing it every weekend or crushing it every couple days or whatever, as long as you're kind of hanging around and then like, because that stuff sort of surfaces over time, you know, when the time is right, you know, and I was thinking about that today. I'm like out there, I ran 3 miles at about a 10-minute pace, and I got a new heart rate threshold indicator. I'm like, holy
Total
crap,
trash.
man, this can't be good. But, and I was also thinking, boy, the last Ironman I ran faster than this. You know, it's like, but how do you believe in that down the road? I think it's just, really that was kind of my message, I think, in this whole thing is it's like just a reminder in the sense that it's still there. It's just, you know, it's not a good time to be judging yourself right now sometimes.
No, and I think for athletes, especially that have been in and out of the sport or been in it for a long time and you know, are, you know, kind of gone through periods of, you know, where we haven't raced or we haven't trained. It's like, I think we forget how exciting it's like we think that, okay, well, once you discover something once, it's no longer fun and exciting to discover again. You know, like once you get into the sport and you achieve things or you get really fit and you're like, God, that was so much fun to like just work hard and get back. But all you saw was the end result, right? It's like, you know, and then you look back and you think, yeah, well, do I really want to discover it? Like go through that discovery process again? Because I should just kind of have the end result because I've already been there, right? And it's like, but no, that's not the fun part. The fun part and the interesting part is that self-discovery through fitness and through training and through, I think, what Ironman and endurance sports provides is that opportunity, right? To discover no matter, because listen, like we always talk about, every race is different. No matter what you do, no matter what race it is, no matter what day it is, no matter what year it is, something is always different about the event itself. The thing that is the most different is you. You're never the same. Most people aren't even like close to the same person even the course of a year. I mean, I know so many athletes have changed tremendously this year for a variety of reasons. And so it's in turn, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you look back at your training journey and how you apply sport to your life and vice versa, like the goal is to continue discovering. It's not to get fed up and frustrated and down on ourselves because we're not there yet and we're not at the end goal. You know, it's like, what's the fun in that? Like, I think it's an interesting, not necessarily topic, but an interesting thought that I think a lot of athletes has is that we're all so freaking antsy to already be there or to achieve this or to get this. And then what are you going to do when you're going to get it and then do something else? And you just, all you're going to do is accumulate, right? And instead of having experiences and growth and self-discovery and becoming someone different that's doing something different and either faster or longer or shorter, whatever it is, like the part, like if you're just stopping and want to get there so quickly, then what's next? And what are you going to learn? And I think people will tell you in the sport, like the longer you're in it, the most exciting thing is to just kind of keep figuring out what can you do to get better. And that getting better is going to look different every year, every season, no matter who you are, whether it's, you know, you got married or you got a different job or you moved or you're, you know, moving up an age group or, you know, you got injured or you were sick, whatever it is, like being better isn't just something you accumulate from your watch through training sessions. It's just like, it's who you become in that process. But we get so, like, anyone will tell you, like, the Ironman journey is great, but no one's depressed about going back down to the finish line. They get depressed because the process is gone. They get depressed because the journey is over with. And they're like, so would you say, do you want to rush it? You know, people are like, oh, well, it's a bucket list item, you know, or people who are in the sport in general, like, okay, we'll just do it tomorrow and you'll magically wake up and have the fitness. You sign up for an Ironman. And all you want to do is be a bucket lister and just finish it, which is fine. That's your world. And then, all right, well, you know what? I'm just going to drink this potion tomorrow morning. You'll wake up, you'll have the fitness, you can do it, and then it's going to be gone. Where the hell is the fun in that? Like, I can't fathom a situation where you would think, God, I got so much out of doing that 140.6 miles that I didn't work hard for, that I didn't wake up early for, that I didn't have these bad days, I didn't have these great days. And you know what? I totally got to skip out on the 10 or 12 months of transformation that did for my life. I'm just glad I did it and I'm gone. No, it's like, it's the sweat, it's the tireless days, it's the motivation, it's who you become in the process. And all we want to do in life is speed everything up and have it all the time, immediately, just to accumulate whatever it is, and then you move on when you really haven't learned or grown or discovered anything in the process.
I know, right? And then how do you get, gratification out of the growing? I think that's always a hard, because the signals aren't always clear, right? To me, it's sort of like, you just, it's such a gradual thing, and you're getting stronger, and you can go farther, and you can go faster in the whole 9 yards as you train for something like this. And then, but it all becomes relative, because you just look at yesterday or whatever. And it's kind of like, sometimes you have to reflect back on that. I mean, like for me though, it's like right now a growth would be, just little things like just feeling stronger on a run, or not being sore all the time, or like my shoulder screwed up. I was talking to this guy the other night. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, and he was talking about, he was getting into testosterone treatments, right? And I was like, kind of, what's that? How's that? And he goes, I said, are you sleeping good? He goes, well, I can't sleep that well because my shoulders are so screwed up from training. And I was like, yeah, I get that. It's so weird that you can, like, as you get older, have sleep injuries. You know what I mean? It's like you sleep the wrong way, and then all of a sudden you got a chronic pain in your shoulder, like I do right now, and there's no really rhyme or reason for it, and it's bugging the crap out of me. But it's like little things like that I think become the bigger part of the challenge sometimes, especially as we try to get through this cycle and get into 2021 and get back into the race thing. And it's sort of like these little aches and pains become magnified at this time. And because if you're in a better shape, you kind of get out, you get used to it, and you get rolling. And you know how it is. You start rolling around. And I actually, after the run, everything felt great again. So it's like, oh, okay. But like the more of that kind of stuff you deal with, the more difficult the process becomes. So it's sort of like being able to recognize your wins and your growth and things like that becomes such a big deal. And I think, I don't know how you do that, but like for me, historically, it's been writing about it, and it just kind of reminds me of where I was and where I'm at and where I'm going and stuff like that. And like you said, I mean, to feel good about where you're at today, it seems like the biggest challenge that we all face. I mean, everybody really. It's like recognize that things are pretty good. Maybe.
I mean, it's a tough one, but you're so right. I mean, I think sometimes, and I think endurance, not all, but a lot of endurance athletes are wired in a way that it's like you're never satisfied. So a lot of times, like, you can misinterpret that within yourself as you're never good enough, which also, sometimes translates into a feeling of, not woe is me, but like, I've always got to be better. Things can be better. And you look around, especially like this year, and you made it to the end of it, and you're like, man, I've been lucky, and man, is my life awesome. Compared, not even compared, right? Compared to other people, you're like, and I think that's like another thing that we trap ourselves with. And I almost caught myself saying it was like, yeah, but like, compared to so-and-so, you're like, how do you know? Like how they could, the person who you think might have the roughest life might wake up and think, man, I'm so lucky today, because their perspective on what they've been able to accomplish and what they have is so different, right? Because we compare, or you think, God, I don't know why I'm having such a rough time staying motivated, because I look at so-and-so and they've got, they work in 3 jobs and they're going through a divorce and they've got all these things they're going through, and they're able to get up and they're able to go do their run, and I should be able to do mine. Like we compare ourselves to everything, but the underlying question should always be is like, are you happy? And if you're not, what makes you happy? And then, equation equals, then do that, and it's like, but what makes us continuously happy, I think, changes over time. And then the questions that we end up asking ourselves is, does this still make me happy? And if it doesn't, then why? And is this just part of like me always trying to find something else to, push myself towards or gravitate towards? I did 1 Ironman this year and that wasn't enough. I'm going to get 2. Or another year, I'm going to get 3. And it's like that sign or a symptom of it's just never enough. So when is it? And if everything you do isn't enough, then what are you getting out of it not being enough? Is it even something positive? Is it something gratifying? Are you continuously learning? It'd be like, your kid going out and shooting basketball and literally never making it. Be like, I get like having to work for it, but like if they never make it, like, what exactly are they learning? That they're just not good enough, like they can't do it, versus trying hard and trying to accomplish something and then making it work. Like, I did it. Hard work is, and I'm satisfied and I'm proud of myself. And I think I do. It's a very, and I have to have this conversation with myself, but also with so many athletes that I work with. And sometimes I just have to say, like, cut the shit. Stop being so negative and critical about yourself, and like pat yourself on the back. Like, be proud of yourself, because you're all you see through whatever lens with the glasses you're currently wearing, which is always based on like how life is going and like how your day is going. Kind of like you said, your run, you can't, but if you're wearing a different lens that, that day, you've been like, but look, man, a couple months ago, I wasn't running at all, and I was totally painful. It's like, it's all about the lens you wear, and you have to say a slap in the face, like, just shut your mouth and be happy with what you have and where you've gone, because we get so trapped in what we don't have currently. And all we focus on is, and we lose sight of the big picture of where we've come from, or you lose sight of how the last 3 to 4 to 5 months have gone, and think, kind of really, honestly, I have no business being in this fit right now. But yet, here I am. Yeah. Instead of being like, but back in like 87, man, like I was just crushing it on the track. And I'm like, okay, dude, that's not like, I think it's just that the kind of, we talked about a few months back, or maybe in November, October, is like, where has anyone been harmed with optimism in terms of like being proud of yourself? And generally, like, you should be your biggest fan. You shouldn't be your biggest critic. There are enough people who are going to criticize you in general for whatever reason. Life makes you triple think and triple check everything that you do, everything that you think, everything you want to accomplish. Life is being like, no, that's not right. No, you shouldn't do that. I mean, you and I go through this personally with the businesses. Like, everyone else is doing this, maybe we should think about it. Then we're like, whatever. We'll just keep doing it. We'll just keep doing our own thing.
Yeah,
it's like
what we want.
It's like we want, but you're always being tugged and pulled in these different directions, that there's just so much to be thankful for and happy about, that if you kind of triage your way through that thought process, I think you're always going to end up being a lot happier in general, which leads to a lot of better things.
I couldn't agree more, man. No, but I think that's the catch-22, right, of today. And this is, you joke about it, and I know I get a little bit like testy about technology and things of that nature. It makes a lot of things easier. It makes this podcast really easy. It's great for us to sit here and we can talk it out. A lot of times we kind of go around the hub here and we work and, don't do a lot of talking. We get to sit down and talk this out and see where everybody's at, or see where we're at with each other or whatever. And I think that's a great thing, and you look, if you decide to get into triathlon, then all of a sudden you want to get into triathlon stuff. So when you're uncovering, whether it's YouTube videos or Instagram pages or Facebook or whatever, the whole thing is, it's like you're seeing people out there just like posting their good stuff, and I'll go back to this again. It's sort of like, David Goggins. I love that guy. I read his book. He's just super inspirational, but man, is he a tough one to kind of keep up with. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, wow, that I should be more like him. I should be out crushing it every day. And like, he's a tough dude. And, and I'm sure if he came by here, the hub one day and said, hey, Mike, we're going to run. And I'd probably put in 20 miler in the mountain. You know what I mean? He would just do that for me. But like,
but should you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, probably not, but I'm sure I would, but I'm just saying, like, it's tough, if you want to if you kind of lose track of where you're at, you've been doing triathlon for a year or 2 years or whatever, and you feel, pretty good about it. Like, stop by like a class reunion. You might like, oh, I guess I am doing all right, because it's like, that's the thing you find out is when you kind of go out of the circle. You're always in the circle. There's always somebody trying to up the ante and inspire you and get you going. And you're like, man, I'm not that guy or that girl. But, you stop by a class reunion and everybody's like, man, you're in good shape. It's like, oh, yeah, thanks. I feel it. So I think it's like it's such a mental game, man. It's sort of like, I don't know how that translates into what we should be looking at on social media, but maybe not the inspirational stuff all the time.
Probably
sort of like the unachievable. It's always like I'm looking at this, and that, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, how can I do all? I gotta be a better sleeper. I gotta be a better eater. I gotta train better. I gotta work my core more often. I mean, it's like, where does it end?
I'm looking at all these things, and all I can see is I can't really be me anymore. I just need to have this laundry list of like to-dos, which is frightening. And I think therein lies like the answer is, it's like you are I think we try so hard to be things and to accumulate things and to be things and to want things that we don't even really want or to do, but you just end up falling in line with, FOMO, whatever else you want to put it. It's like, is that really even you? Like, what do you like? You should only know what's best for you and the person that you really are and your true authentic self. And if anything else gets in that way, then you should question its worth and its value in your life. Yet every single day you're pushed and pulled with ads and whatever. Maybe that answers the question. It was ads. And so it's like, do this and do that. And you need to be a better sleeper. And there's actually a faster way to do this. And you're like, but I really actually enjoy the time that it takes to do this. Oh, but you could spend, $35 a month and do it in half the time. And then wait, and like, but what am I like? What am I going to achieve and what am I going to accomplish? What am I going to get in return for that? And, when it comes to training and being, you should almost get to a point to where, and the more I do this and the more athletes that I work with on all different levels and all different scales, the ones who are the most accomplished, and I don't mean that by like their times or their place or their podiums, but the ones who are the most accomplished and getting the most out of themselves, 95% of the time, don't even think about it. Mm-hmm. They just do it. It has become, I guess going back to what we just said, it has become who they are and what they do. They have found that in this certain piece of life that triathlon fits into who they are, and it internally and externally makes them better. And that is, for them, the end of the story. It doesn't need to be, was I faster than yesterday? Was that what? But compared back to October, it was a couple seconds off my pace, or I didn't hit the Strava segment like I did 2 months ago. I'm really just thinking that things aren't working. They just wake up, they do it. Yeah, are some days easier than others? Absolutely. Where you wake up and you're just jazzed and ready to take on the world. We all have those days in general. Are there days where it's like, I'm not doing it today? Sure. Or that you feel sick or you don't want to do things? Yeah, there are. But for the most part, they just do it. And there's no, there's no argument with themselves over was this good or was this bad. It just is part of what they did and who they are for today because they have seen the value in looking at it that way, or it's just become that. And they think triathlon is good for me. And that's kind of all I really need to know. It's like, but we love to question and compare and dig deeper. And let me get back into the data and the analytics. And like, was it real? Is it good for you? Does it going back to one of the very first things you said on the podcast is workouts should kind of give you energy, not take it away and make you feel better. And while that's true for the most part, obviously there's some workouts that are going to take more out of others, but I think that goes not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And if you continuously find yourself beating yourself up after workouts, because you're not fast enough or you're not fit enough or you're not losing weight fast enough or you're never going to beat so-and-so, this isn't good for you. And you need to rethink why it's not good for you and what you can do that might be good for you, because that's no way, not just to spend your triathlon life, but it's no way to spend your life in general. Is to wake up and it'd be the same thing as, you and I walk into work every day and be like, all right, we're going to work for an hour and then we're going to go walk down Main Street and we're going to walk into every single other business and we're going to compare ourselves and see how good, we are compared to them. We'll walk into, a law firm and a CPA office or a restaurant. We'll be like, well, look, they're doing that better. We don't do that. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
When we left the hub and we were like, God, we love our jobs and we love what we do and we get so much out of it. And just leave it at that. Instead, you just walk down, the street and you're like, God, but we should be doing this better too, because, we could, or look at them. They've got it better than us. And that's what we do with training. When we read through Strava feeds and Garmin and social media, it's just, you don't live within it's not within your means, but you just stop living your own life because you don't even have one. It's everything. It's all feeds, and you're not feeding off yourself. You're feeding off the feeds, and it's usually a negative thing, not a positive thing.
There's so many temptations. There just really are. It can hit you. I don't know if I'm normal like that, but so I'll be popping through videos on YouTube or something, and you just look sort of for the one that's going to hit you at the right spot. And then maybe I'll watch a video and I'll be like, man, that is so dead on. That's so on the money. And then I could be like, yep, okay, it solved the problem for me. It answered the questions. And then an hour later, I have no idea what I just watched. It's just almost like a soothing piece of the day for me or something. And that's not bad necessarily either, because it can sort of shift my mindset sometimes. It's like, oh, I knew I wasn't alone. I knew that made sense. You know, so we go through these things, and I love what you said, man. It's like, this is, I don't know, you got to do you know, it's got to be, triathlon should be good for you. And that really is simple enough, right? Just to kind of do what you're doing. And I notice it, you know, I got the Garmin, you know, something running around, and I'm like, I notice that it kind of like, I'm not good at it, you know. I'm better at just kind of like letting it flow. And sometimes it's really, I don't know how many people could do this, but like, it's really exciting to go out there and like not save the data or not have the data, you know. It's like, what did that mean? I don't know. It just sort of felt good. It's sort of like, you know, with the technology, it's sort of like, I remember back in the day when we literally had to solve long arithmetic problems, you know, long division and stuff. And like how that process unfolded in your brain was kind of interesting. And now it's just sort of plug it in. Everything's plug it in. It's just like, give me the number and then we'll figure it out for you. And it's sort of like, it becomes a little bit more of a throwaway. I was talking about that the other day with music. Back in the day, you know, when you had albums or CDs and you opened them up and you kind of looked at the liner notes and read about it a little bit. But now everything is sort of a single, and it just sort of like comes up on your phone. It doesn't even sound that good. And you just kind of like, I can't, you know, it's like you can't remember any new bands, or at least I can't. Maybe that's just my generation, but it's sort of the same thing, right? Like you don't build an allegiance with music as easy, I feel like, these days. And that's why, you know, most people are listening to what they listened to when they grew up, I think. And maybe that'll be the same for kids today. So I'm just maybe being old.
I mean, you already went to town on my music taste last week, so we don't even go there.
But no, it's pure and genuine. I'm all behind you.
There's a lot there. Like, and I think and going back to like, you have to think through a lot of things. You know, right now, there is all, you know, I hate saying like there's an app for everything. There is, like, everything, not everything, but a lot of things in life are incredibly simplistic now in their nature, that more and more people fail to have the skill to just generally critically think their way through, because usually they can just, I'll just Google or I'll answer it. And there's not this like there's this guy across the street that lives in our neighborhood, Josh, and he, every like 3 or 4 months, he goes out and buys this like junky car and then just rebuilds it. Drives it for a few months, sells it for a profit, you know, and then gets a new one. And I'm looking at him like, dude, I wish I had that. Like, not like, I mean, obviously I don't know anything about cars, but like, just to like have that, you know, he could just take it to a body shop, be like, hey, I want new tires, I want new rims, I want, you know, this changed out and this new thing. No, he does it himself. He doesn't. I've told him, I was like, I just think, I was like, it's just a hobby. I just love it. And it wasn't, he was like, and I was like, do you, you know, to make, he's like, yeah, I usually make money off of it. And he's funny because he's got this like, not brand new, but probably a year or two old Chevy, like one of those like $65,000, $70,000 trucks. It's been in his garage for 2 months. I haven't seen him drive it. He's been driving the 83 or 84 blue Blazer that he's rebuilt, that he bought for like $800, and he put new tires on it and rims on it. It's something that he's proud of. He didn't just buy it, he built it, and he had to work to do it. So I have to imagine that it's part of, he has this relationship almost with it, you know, like in terms of like, I built it, I love it, it's mine, not I just got it, you know. It's like, and that's, I have the same feeling with my yard, you know. It's like, that's why I don't pay somebody to do it. I love doing it. And I think when you look at your training that way, and that's why I think so many people need to like critically think more in their sessions and not be so obsessed with sticking to certain numbers or automatic trainers or Trainer Road or Zwift, and it's like, do this and it's always automated and it thinks for you and you don't have to think at all. You just hop on your bike and pedal in the gear. It's like, yeah, I mean, like, sure. Or is there like an occasion every once in a while where that's probably okay? Sure. But other than that, like, I want to feel it. Like, I want to like do it myself. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, like that mentality in life where it's like you can take you can go buy it and be done with it. But it's like, but when it's yours, you know, it's like, It's something different.
Body,
it's just yeah, exactly. It's your body. It's like
I really
it's
like
yours.
what you said, don't buy it, build it.
It's like don't buy it. And like people try to do that, and they always try to shortcut it, right? It's like and he could have taken his like I'm gonna buy this. I'll take it to Joe down the street. He'll probably overcharge me. I'm not gonna make yours. It'll just be over with and done with. And then he'll probably drive it for a week and be like, Dad, he screwed me. He overcharged me, and he didn't do it right. I was better off doing it myself, and I wouldn't have to go back and do it. Yet athletes do it time and time again. They're like, let me find the shortcut. I don't want to work hard. You know what I'm going to do? I'm really disinterested with the bike. I'm going to drop $1,500 on a smart trainer. That's going to get me interested in the bike. Or, what I need to do to get faster in the swim? I need to spend $800 on a wetsuit. That's going to get me faster in the swim. Like all we want to do is buy our way too fast. But it's not. You might be able to buy momentary speed, or generally you're just going to buy a product that's going to be a part of the person and the triathlete that you build. It's not going to be, stuff like that is like the guy across the street, Josh, buy a new windshield wiper. He's like, this is going to be the game changer. I'm going to get new wipers. Yeah. I'm going to spend a little bit of extra money on some, an extra layer of Rain-X, and that's what's going to upsell this blazer. You got to build it. Don't buy it, and don't buy into the other ways that look fancier in the short term. But that's not like long-term progress takes long-term, initiative and focus and motivation. But we lose it, and I just find that intrinsic quality so admirable and something that we could apply to everything that we do in life, with our relationships, with our sport, with your business, whatever it is. Like that long-term initiative. Like, but I just put in the work, baby. Just put in. There is no short-term answer. It's all about putting in the work and building it, because ultimately it's like, sure, I'm sure there are a million people who could look at what we've accomplished over the last, whatever, and be like, but you could probably hire a business consultant, or you probably could have gone this route with this and probably made, $1 million if you had done this platform or done this or done, sponsors or ads, like whatever, and done this, and you're like, Bob, and have someone do it for you and be hands-on, but you think back and you think, nah, we built it ourselves for the last 4 years and, 5 years, 6, 7 years, and you're like, and that's why we love it, but sure, could have you done maybe something different, but yeah, it wouldn't be us, right? And that's just a huge difference in, I think, how we look at a lot of things in life.
Yeah. I do think that you could put a lot, or I think there's something to be said for putting good energy into really appreciating things instead of trying to get the shortcut or get some kind of external stimulation. And, I think that's just we're a product of that, age right now with the dopamine hits on the phones and the cell phones and the messages and whatever it is. But there's something to be said for waiting around and, taking a long time to see grandma bring the dinner out. You know what I mean? Like that really homemade kind of thing. And it does, man. I was thinking about the other day. It's like whenever I go home and mom makes something and we eat dinner, it just tastes better than when I make it, because it's always like, how quick can I make this? How fast can I get this meal on the table and done with it? And it's just ridiculous.
Tell me how you really feel.
I'm tired of myself with that, man.
There is our neighbors. I got some quality neighbors.
You're starting to make good neighbors.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm a little more chatty than I usually have in the past. I do have solid neighbors. At least in our end of the cul-de-sac rocks. The other end is pretty terrible. But
my neighbors are
there's every single Sunday he's got one of these green eggs or whatever that everybody loves.
Oh, yeah.
You spend whatever, a couple $1,000s, and you spend all day smoking smoke cookers. And he gets out there on a Sunday at 6 a.m. and throws it on. And I'm like, dude, what the? And then around 4 p.m. he rolls out there and it smells good. I'm like, I see what you did there. Yeah, and I'm like, it's worth it. It just takes that time to do it. And then going back to the feelings and you thought, I'm a huge, I love to watch some of the reality, MasterChef or Top Chef, and when they criticize people's foods and they give adjectives, or they talk about, I could really see, they also use really stupid, thoughts about them. But then they'll say you can just tell that this, when they're inspired to do it for their parents or from where their nationality or it's from their culture, they can be I could like I could feel what you were trying to accomplish within your food. Like it came from your heart. You did it this way. Man. It's, you can feel the love when people cook. Like that's what you say, like you're back with your grandma. It's like it's different. And because you can actually see them. They're not just working to make a meal. They're working to make an experience. And that's what food can give you. Obviously, when you go to restaurants, the best ones, it's like, it's become an experience. Like it's not just about how it tastes. It's about how the whole production, is and like what goes into it. But the same thing goes like the most overrated term ever is overnight success. Who the hell wants to be an overnight success? And first of all, there aren't any. But can you think about just achieving your wildest? I mean, obviously, like if you're like, struggling for money and you need money, sure, like overnight success would be great. But when it comes to achieving like what you want to be in the process, and you just woke up one day and you're like, oh, okay, it's done. Okay, now what? But actually going through everything it took to get there, to see it through, and you think, oh, man, you appreciate it so much more. And on the flip side of that, it also means you're usually willing to do so much more for it instead of just throwing it away and buying the next one. You hold on to it because you love it, because you built it, because it matters to you for reasons that only you should care about, which are yours. It just means a lot to me. Why don't you throw it away? It takes a lot of space in your house. It's just something that means a lot to me. I don't want to give it up. Whereas other things, you're just going to throw people are going to toss away so many toys in the next month that they've had that their kids don't need, and they're going to toss them and not give them away. Just throw things away. They just don't matter. Just buy, accumulate, buy. And you're like, what is it? Like, what in life really matters to you? And stick to that. And the same thing goes with training, is that you build it, you'll love it, you'll appreciate it, and then you'll look at the things you do not so much as a comparison or a met expectation, but just as an overall appreciation for your body and what you're able to do, what you're able to still do, even on the bad days. Because for the most part, your bad days are still so much better than your worst days that you've ever had before, or the best days of most Americans who can barely walk down the block without being super winded and having to fall to their knees.
Yep. Yeah, you can't buy it, man. We've got a good group of people in town and for a trail race this weekend, and
tomorrow.
Can't buy that. I mean, that's like really the most valuable thing that we've created is the community, and it's like it's priceless to have these folks come in town and just get to hang out with them and meet them. I mean, it's like, or meet them or see them again, and it's just so awesome. And I like it.
I love it.
Buy it.
Want some more of it? Buy it. Build it. Don't buy it. Yeah. We built this podcast today, at least, and Mike will finish it up here in about 20 minutes, get it out to you. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. 20 minutes, I know it's a little stuff. They're not going to know. They're going to get it when you're done with it.
I want to like let it soak.
You want to? Oh, you're going to slow cook it?
Yeah, slow cook.
We slow cooked it already.
Sometime.
We love you. We appreciate you. Hope you have an outstanding weekend. Stay happy. Be healthy. Appreciate and love what you do. And we'll see you on Monday.
All right, buddy. I think it's good enough.